The truth about JFK, RFK, and MLK assassinations is finally coming to light. Trump's historic release of the classified files has RFK Jr. leading a new presidential commission on assassinations. Recently declassified CIA documents also reveal Operation Northwoods, a military plot, adds credibility to decades of conspiracy theories. From CIA involvement to Cuban connections, every revelation points to a massive cover-up. Even Tucker Carlson reports being threatened by Pompeo's lawyer for discussing the unredacted documents. Now, this isn't just about history. It's about exposing decades of deep state deception. And just as these classified files expose hidden truths, smart investors are discovering the hidden truth about their retirement accounts. The same government that concealed these files has been devaluing your dollars through unchecked inflation. At Global Gold Investments, they believe in transparency, so give them a call. The number's on the screen, 888-700-4148, and get your 2025 Protect Your Wealth and Retirement Guide. You'll get it free when you mention Next News. You'll also receive a complimentary portfolio analysis and up to $1,000 in free silver for January rollovers. Don't let your wealth become another government secret. Okay. So there's a lot to unpack in this report. So much has happened. And it all started, of course, when Donald Trump decided that he was going to release the files. And here is that historic moment.
Files. Lastly, sir, we have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this for years, for decades. And everything will be revealed. Okay?
Everything.
Give that to RFK Jr.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Okay. Thank you very much.
That is absolute history you are witnessing there. Now, Mike Pompeo, you may have heard that he just had his Secret Service detail revoked. And I want to play this clip. It's only about 50 seconds. John Stossel asking Pompeo why he fought so hard to keep those files a secret.
Why'd you fight to keep the JFK files secret?
Because I was trying to keep Americans safe. And by the way, don't pay.
Keep Americans safe. From who? The government? What does that even mean? Hang on, let's play it again.
Why'd you fight to keep the JFK files secret?
Because I was trying to keep Americans safe. And by the way, don't paint with too broad a brush. 99.6% of the JFK files are public today.
But it was 60 years ago.
John, not everything was 60 years ago. And I don't want to spend a lot of time walking through this, but suffice it to say, the definition of a document covered by this statute that you're referring to, it's a little bit wonky, but suffice it to say, if Congress holds a hearing tomorrow on the Kennedy assassination, the documents generated tomorrow will be part of those files. Those would be tomorrow, they'd be 60 seconds old, not 60 years old. And last thing I'll say is there are things that happened 60 years ago that are still important to keep in the vault. There are lots of things that happened that long ago that still are appropriate not to release. Think of names and addresses and families. And by the way, there's also no value in them. These don't hold the dark secrets that everybody wants to just hold up as the bogeyman. I saw the UFO files too. We've got bigger problems. In America, lots of bigger problems. Just because something is kept secret will not go to the darkest corners. But it's a lot of fun. I'm happy to go there with you if you'd like.
I'm no expert in this, but it just makes no sense to me the 60 years ago that there are things in there you've got.
Sure.
Like,
sure.
Hypothetically, just for example.
Imagine you had an operative operating somewhere in the world who was 20 years old at the time they were doing that work. 60 years ago puts them at 80 today. Average lifespan of an American male, something in that range. Yeah, you should keep their identity secret.
But this was the Kennedy assassination in America.
Right, exactly. Precisely right. Remember what the scope of these files is, John. The scope of these files isn't reduced to just what was happening inside the United States government. The scope of these files is legion. Anything that was talked about in the course of, there were hearings in the 90s, there were hearings in the 2000s, they ran far afield around the world. Anything that was part of those files is included in this. And so I had a chance to see not all of those documents, but most of them. The news value of them is grossly overrated, and the desire to keep them secret, the motivation, the rationale for keeping them secret is wholly justified. I think we released, I can't remember on our watch, 140,000, 180,000 pages of those documents while I was the CIA director. Totally appropriate to do so, and as time goes on, we should do our best. The most important reason to do it is because everybody out there talking about these things will get to see that there's less there than meets the eye. I'll leave it.
Yeah, well, things are about to change. Did you ever see this clip? Yeah, this is Mike Pompeo talking about being the CIA director and bragging about lying.
When I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses. It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment.
Yeah, he's bragging about that. And we also, I've got this clip here. I recorded this when Tucker Carlson had RFK Jr. in Milwaukee. We'll play some of that. Some serious insights from RFK Jr. We've got lots. I mean, this is chock full here. But here is this clip. I think it's actually heartbreaking, but it's RFK Jr. talking about what happened to his father.
And they keep trying to kill you guys. What the fuck is this about?
And my father was brought through the kitchen where he was not scheduled to go. And Sirhan fired 2 shots at my father. The first one hit Paul Schrade in the head. The second one hit a door jamb behind my father, the wooden frame of the door. Then he was grabbed by 6 men, and they pinned him against the steam table, and they took his gun hand, and they pushed it away from my father, pointing the opposite way. He then fired off 6 more shots and emptied the chamber, but exactly the opposite direction of my father, and all of those shots hit people. So we know what happened to every bullet in his gun, but the bullets that killed my father, according to Thomas Noguchi's autopsy report, Thomas Noguchi was the most important coroner in American history. My father was shot 4 times from behind, never from in front. The shots, one of the shot passed harmlessly through his shoulder pad. The other 3, 2 lodged in his back. The other one was right behind his ear. And that in each case, they were contact shots, meaning the barrel of the gun was touching his skin or half an inch from it, and they left carbon tattoos. And they all had an upward angle so that whoever was doing it was standing behind my father and holding the gun, not directly at him like that, but at an angle where you could keep him closer.
So it was almost like...
And the guy who was in that position is a guy called Eugene Thanes Cesar, and he was a security guard who was hired 2 days before.
And they keep trying to...
Yeah, that's his account right there. This is what RFK posted November 22nd of 2023. Finally, the light of day will be seen.
Hi, everybody. On November 22nd, 1963, my uncle, President John F. Kennedy, was murdered in broad daylight in Dallas. For 60 years, the United States government has covered up the truth about that assassination, which is one of the reasons that it has lost the public trust. Was it a lone gunman, as the Warren Commission concluded in 1964? Or was there a larger conspiracy, as the House Select Committee on Assassination concluded after reviewing a much larger body of evidence in 1979? I have my own thoughts on that subject, but one thing is for sure, The antidote to conspiracy is transparency. In 1992, Congress mandated the release of all records related to the John F. Kennedy assassination by 2017. Well, that date has come and gone. President Trump refused to release thousands of pages of documents, and so did President Biden. No one seriously believes that any national security secrets are at stake 60 years later. What is so embarrassing that they want to hide? I don't know what those documents will show, but I do believe in transparency, which is the only way to restore trust in our government, the trust that began to erode in 1963. And that's why we're circulating a petition to ask President Biden to keep his promise by releasing all JFK assassination documents as required by the law. I'm asking you to share this video and sign the petition, and then...
Well, thankfully that petition is no longer needed because the files have officially been released. And here we have, this is RFK's actual reaction, hailing Trump's declassification of the files.
Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. reacting today to President Trump's order to declassify documents related to the JFK and Robert F. Kennedy assassinations. Kennedy is the son of the late Senator Robert F. Kennedy and a Trump cabinet nominee for Secretary of Health and Human Services. He has said in the past that there is evidence that the CIA was involved in his uncle's death, and spoke to NBC News as he left a meeting with senators ahead of his confirmation hearing next week.
President Trump.
You think that that's the right move to declassify those documents?
I think it's a great move because we need to have more transparency in our government, and he's keeping his promise to have the government tell the truth to the American people about everything.
However, JFK's grandson, Jack Schlossberg, criticized the president's move on social media, posting, quote, "Declassification is using JFK as a political prop when he's not here to punch back, and there's nothing heroic about it." And Robert
using JFK as a political prop? That's disgusting. That's disgusting. If anyone, the family should be celebrating this news. Here's that document, Operation Northwoods. It's actually been declassified for quite some time, and it talks about different operations where the U.S. military was involved to justify a war against Cuba. Now, that's an older document, and this is also interesting. This was published 10 hours ago about Martin Luther King Jr. apparently having affairs. You can see what's on the screen there, and this, I'm not sure. We got to dig a little bit deeper into that. Here we have, okay, so this, let's listen to Mike Benz on Real America's Voice. General Mike Flynn said this when he quote tweeted the Post. He said, "If real Donald Trump doesn't take full control of the U.S. intelligence community, principally the CIA, but all other agencies, NSA, DIA, NGA, NRO, etc., as well, they will undermine his presidency again. It is already kicked into high gear." He says he's very serious. Mike Benz says, "It already seems to me it's already set up to fail regarding the executive order."
Against Trump. You're not wrong at all, actually. While I think it's very heartening that Trump made this a week one action, and in some respects it is promises made, promises kept, there is a lot of problems with the way that the executive order is actually worded. It provides 15 days for the acting Office of Director of National Intelligence to provide a plan to the president about the declassification, and then 45 days to review the documents for release. Now, the problem with that is the current head of the ODNI, Stacey Dixon, is a Biden appointee who, frankly, has gone against Trump's stated policies on many, many occasions, including her making DEI the number 2 priority item of the National Geospatial Agency when she was the head of it, who spent 20 years of her career in the CIA and could very well, there are rumors currently that she may be working to stop or forestall the appointment of Tulsi Gabbard, who is Trump's pick to be the ODNI director. As the Senate Intelligence Committee ranking member, Mark Warner on the Democrat side is stalling Tulsi's confirmation hearing. 15 days is not nearly enough time to get Tulsi in charge of this plan. Now, this is very important because back in 2020, Tulsi Gabbard was spotted with a copy in her hand of a book called JFK and the Unspeakable, which is a meticulous dissertation on the CIA's role in the JFK assassination. There's actually sections going over reviewed documents declassified in the 1990s showing that the CIA actually had a counterintelligence operation around Lee Harvey Oswald, where they were literally reading his physical mail before it came to his home in the months leading up to the assassination. So they knew everything that Lee Harvey Oswald was doing, and there's an open question whether or not they were working through back channels or simply allowed it to happen. But they were wiretapping his devices, they were reading his physical mail, and Tulsi Gabbard, the incoming head of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, knows it, having read that book, having it been spotted in her hands. But Stacey Dixon, who will be the one tasked with carrying out this executive order, I would be quite surprised if she took the same level of aggression. So this does seem to me set up to fail. There are also other issues, which is that the documents that are currently called the JFK files up for review are about 75,000 pages of documents that have been digitized by the CIA, meaning basically the defendant in the case is the one who is setting what is even up for discovery. There have been many whistleblower reports that there are paper records from 1961, 62, 63 that simply never were digitized and that are laying in Langley in paper boxes, eyes only, that are not a part of the JFK files to be reviewed by the ODNI. So what we need is a totally separate and independent audit that is a separate canvas to be put together in a White House task force in order to conduct an independent review. And I don't believe leaving this to the current acting ODNI will actually get the result the American people are presently expecting.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so here, I want to play this clip, okay? This is RFK Jr. talking about the orchestrated violence dividing America and the shocking truth about the JFK assassination files. Now, I recorded this in Milwaukee. Now, the audio is a little rough because I was literally recording with my smartphone in like the fifth row. So just bear with me and we'll play it.
It appears to be a second assassination attempt on Donald Trump in just a couple months. What do you make of this?
I don't know what to make. I mean, I think we're seeing an impact, at least partially. I mean, I don't know I just don't know enough about what's happened, and I've been reading some of the internet stuff about the connections that this man may or may not have had to the intelligence agencies, etc. And I don't know what to make of it. I do know that there's an antagonism and a violence in our society now that I feel is orchestrated.
Okay, the audio just appears to be just too rough. I apologize for that. But we also have this with Tucker and RFK.
If elected, your joint appearance on Friday, President Trump introduced you by saying that he plans to, if elected, establish a commission to declassify the remaining documents around your uncle's murder in 1963.
Yeah.
And I think everyone at this point knows the truth, which is the CIA is implicated in that. Those documents protect CIA, maybe among others.
Well, whether they do or not, I mean, it's odd that they've not allowed them to be released.
What could possibly be the explanation?
More than 60 years after my uncle's death, almost 65 years, 62 years after his death. And none of the people who were implicated in that crime are alive now.
Yes.
And the last ones have died off in the last year or two. And so it clearly is to protect the institution.
Yes.
And that's wrong. It's just wrong. And it's wrong for a Democrat and it's wrong for Republicans.
It's just interesting, though, that a bipartisan list of presidents, these 6 decades, have kept those files classified.
Well, you and I have both. I was astonished that Trump didn't declassify them because he promised to during the campaign.
That was Mike Pompeo who did that.
Yeah, and that I talked to President Trump for the first time about that this week. And
what did he say?
He said that Mike Pompeo begged him to, and I don't think I'm telling tales out of school here.
No,
I think he told the same thing to you.
That's true.
But he said Mike Pompeo called him and said this would be a catastrophe to release these. You need to not do it. And then,
I want to say again, I think Mike Pompeo is a criminal. So that's my view. He's threatened to sue me for saying that, but I hope he will because that's true. But that kind of tells the whole story right there, right? That the CIA is.
Well, yeah. So that's the
why would the CIA be trying to keep these files classified if they had nothing to do with the murder? Your joint.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. We are in a new era of America, my friends. And what are we going to find out? Let's see here. We got this video
JFK,
here.
if anybody knows about this assassination.
This is from News Nation. This is more reaction to the release. Let's listen.
It's Gerald. Thank you so much for being here. Listen, you tweeted after this announcement and this executive order, transparency at last. There are a few thousand records that have still been withheld from the public. They're largely redacted or totally redacted. Why were they being withheld?
Yeah, Elizabeth, you and I have talked over the years about some of the JFK file releases, and I never knew we'd come to an actual day in which a president ordered their full release. We have about 3,500 documents, as you said, still there. The CIA and others are fighting over their release by saying, gee, it has a name of a living asset, a human asset, an intelligence agent, someone who helped us. It's got some means of gathering intelligence. Trump is saying, forget all of that. These files are important enough. The American public has a right to know what their government knows about the assassination. And a lot of people have been suspicious, thinking that they're hiding some truth about a big conspiracy in there. So I think this is a good move. The devil will be in the details about exactly what the president, when he says everything's coming out, means, because there are tax files in there. Tax files are supposed to be sealed forever, but he may override that and have those tax files of Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Ruby and others released as well.
I don't understand, though, the CIA saying there's the name of a living asset. That was 61 years ago. I mean, that living asset would be 80 or something?
They are in their 80s, because you have to think in the 1960s when this was taking place, the assets that they had in Mexico City, where Oswald went only 6 weeks before the assassination, were sometimes people in the federal police or in the Mexican government who were in their 20s, who were providing information over to the CIA. So they're now in the mid 80s to late 80s. It seems as though there would be very, very few of those. And look, I've thought that the CIA has overmade its case. It was trying to protect its own bureaucratic reputation. I think these files it won't prove that they were behind the effort to kill the president, but I think they will be embarrassing to the agency about how much they knew that Oswald was unhinged in the weeks before the assassination. They never told the FBI. So to the extent the files show that, it will be embarrassing to the agency, and it should be, because we need to see these after all these years.
Well, and by the way, so what if it's embarrassing to the agency? And by the way, everybody at the agency probably wasn't, they were kids, if alive, when the assassination occurred. You say that anybody waiting for some dramatic revelation will be disappointed, but could the full release finally put to bed many of the conspiracy theories that still persist?
I think they will put together. There will be no credible evidence, no smoking gun documents, so to say, that everybody will say, oh, my goodness, that's it. That's what proves the conspiracy. And I think that's what people are waiting for. They're looking for what I call this X-Files moment. They think they're watching an X-Files that's going to end with this great disclosure. But there will be important information in there. There are still files about the Bay of Pigs, the failed invasion there. There are things about the mafia, CIA plot to kill Castro. There's some Mexican intelligence material on Oswald. So we'll fill in part of the history, but I don't think it'll put the conspiracy theories to rest. people will just say, okay, they weren't there in those files, but let's look elsewhere. Maybe President Trump will do what Bobby Kennedy suggested once, which is establish a national commission to look for the files everywhere in the government, and then we'll have this going on for years more.
Listen, I think Larry Sabato said it best when he said, quote, "It seemed just so fantastical that one very disturbed individual could end up pulling off the crime of the century." Of course, referring to 24-year-old, he's so young, Lee Harvey Oswald. Then 2 days later, Oswald himself is assassinated by Jack Ruby, stoking more conspiracies. And then we have the revelation that the CIA had been tracking Oswald even as he visited the Soviet and Cuban embassies in Mexico just weeks before the assassination. There's a lot there that looks really fishy.
I agree. And as a matter of fact, when I first approached the case and started to work on it in the early 90s, I thought it was a conspiracy. I thought that Jack Ruby's murder of Oswald was a silencing of Oswald. The mafia was somehow involved. So I looked for the evidence that would say, yes, there was a plot here. I didn't find it. I followed the evidence to eventually conclude it was Oswald alone. That doesn't mean that there weren't conspiracies brewing against JFK. You could have had the mob wanted him dead, maybe the Russians and the KGB wanted him dead. He was trying to kill Castro, so the Cubans might have wanted him dead. All I concluded in the end is that Oswald got there, committed the assassination, and he wasn't working for any of the plotters. He did it on his own.
Thanks so much for watching.
Yeah, thanks so much for watching. Yeah, well, I think that all that information should be dumped into a massive database, and it can be searchable for everyone. Now, the implications of these declassified files reach far beyond the assassination of JFK, with Trump's appointment of RFK to hopefully lead a presidential commission on assassinations. We're seeing a direct challenge to the deep state's monopoly on truth. And of course, all the documents we're going to find out are going to wake up the American people. As Tucker Carlson's confrontation with Pompeo's lawyer shows, some people are more concerned about protecting reputations than exposing the truth about a presidential assassination. The question burning in everyone's mind, how many other historical events have been covered up by our own intelligence agencies? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And show your support with our exclusive Mag Avengers gear available at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. It's linked below.